Welcome everyone to Ep.7 of Sam Gets Schooled, the weekly podcast show where we bring on a guest and talk about something which they're passionate about. This week I've got with me Rob. Hey Rob.
Hi Sam.
How are you doing?
I'm doing alright, I'm glad you managed to get through that intro completely bumble-free.
Yeah, I know,
You're
first time.
Yeah, clean as anything.
Yeah, exactly. So people are, I should hope, are familiar with the format of the show by now. But just in case you're not, the idea is that I've invited Rob on to talk about something he thinks needs talking about, something he's passionate about. But the catch is that he hasn't told me yet what it is. So I'm totally unprepared. I'm as unprepared as you are. So Rob, if you fancy, would you mind telling me what this podcast is about?
Yeah, I was having a think about this. And I realised it's one of those things that kind of not to insult the format at all, but it's one of those things
dangerous.
I'm on risky ground here. It's one of those things that's inherently nerdy. Whatever topic you go with, because it's something that you're claiming you know about, and other people potentially don't. Whatever topic that is, it's never not nerdy.
Yeah, okay. I'd never actually thought of that.
Yeah,
so
there's no topic I could choose that would kind of fall in the because by virtue of knowing stuff about it, that lands in the field of nerdness. But it's fine. True. That's fine. I've embraced that, and I've rattled through a few ideas, and I've gone with you ready?
I'm ready.
Right, I've gone with The West Wing. Okay.
The West Wing, as in the TV show.
TV show, yeah.
Okay, so this is interesting because I've heard of The West Wing, and I know it's very popular, but sadly. It'd be a very different podcast if I was an expert, but I'm not. I've literally never watched even one episode.
That's great. This is really good. I was gambling a bit on whether.
Well, yeah, it's because it's a very popular show. What if I was number one fan?
Yeah, that would be a good chat, but it wouldn't be good for the format of the podcast.
Yeah, it would be totally inaccessible.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you have anything? Do you regard yourself as a total buff?
Not total. No, I've kind of watched it through maybe 3 times, and I'm on the 4th time. But that's over that's over like 6 years or so.
Okay.
So I've seen it through a few times.
But it's a long-standing interest of yours.
Yeah. I was binge watching it before it was cool.
Right. Yeah. And have you? Do you know like backstage facts and kind of extra things about the actors, or are you all about the plot?
Some I know some bits and pieces, some cheeky gobbets that emerge. But I should go and like kind of watch through all the bonus discs on just on fast forward while you're going away and doing some revising, so that.
Exactly. So what we're going to do is we'll stop there, and then I'll go away and I'll do my best to learn everything you know about the West Wing in 15 minutes, and then we'll pick it right up again. All right, welcome back, Rob. I've done a bit of searching around. It looks like a pretty interesting TV program, although I can't claim to be that knowledgeable after the meager amount of research I've managed to do.
Yeah, I mean, there are 7 full seasons of it, so it would take you kind of close to a day to watch it in full. So I don't blame you for 15 minutes.
Yeah. So tell me why would you pick? I mean, to start with, why? I mean, you're quite an intelligent guy. Let's just acknowledge that to begin with. But why would you choose a TV program as your topic, and why would you even choose this program over any of the other hugely popular mega series that exist?
I think, in terms of mega series, it's certainly my favourite, along with probably The Simpsons. Yeah. And so I'm a massive fan. We'll probably talk about that more. But in terms of why I chose it, partly because I really, really like it, really enjoy it. But also, I think there's something quite comforting in knowing that I have watched all of it. any other topic, I'm going to struggle with having experienced everything about it. But with this, obviously I don't know everything, I don't know every line, but I have at least seen all of it. So I feel like a bit more comfortable with that as opposed to other things where I'd just be constantly aware of my failings in those areas.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good topic for that reason. I mean, assuming you've even watched it through once, you've seen all the possible content, but you've seen it coming on to 4 times now.
Yeah. So I've actually we're just halfway through season 2 on my what I think is my 4th run through. I remember
it's so many times it's hard to remember.
Oh, it merges into the ether of my brain. But there we go.
One of the things my research turned up almost immediately is that it ran from 1999 to 2006, so this program's considered old.
Yeah, I know. It's and I think it really one of the interesting things is that kind of cusp brings it into the DVD age. So it emerged when DVDs were kind of going. So I think it was really one of the first things that did emerge as kind of a box set type thing of experience. Certainly my first time watching it was I watched the entire season 1 in possibly 2 days, because one of those days I was working a 10-hour shift. So, but and I think that was, so although it's quite old, it kind of has a role in this, what we're currently in now with kind of Netflix and things like this, of this experience of just binge watching something all the way through, because the DVDs were released kind of as DVDs were being invented, almost. I presume the first few seasons came out on VHS, which I just feel like is a bit more difficult to binge watch.
Yeah, well, you have to get up from the sofa so frequently.
Yeah, that must have been massive, those boxes.
Can you imagine like, I don't know how many episodes was in the season, but you'd imagine like at least 10 hours of footage or something.
Yeah, so it's 22. Each season is 22 episodes, 40 minutes long. So that's 15 hours or something.
Yeah, and then you struggle to fit like a Disney movie on a VHS.
Yeah, man, that would have been. Yeah, you would have got some exercise just getting up and down all the time.
Do you think it's aging well? I mean, actually, maybe we should backtrack slightly. I mean,
okay, go for
but
it.
how would you describe what is West Wing to someone who's never even heard it?
Yeah, so the West Wing is a drama series based on the kind of the senior staff at the White House during 2 terms of a presidency. The president's called Josiah Bartlet, and it kind of looks at all the different key figures behind the scenes. So you've got kind of the communications directors, like speech writers, policy makers, the key like political people who are engaging with the kind of the houses of Congress and the Senate to try and get them to get votes together. You've then got like the press secretary and all these kind of things. So all the kind of behind the scenes things that we don't see in politics. I mean, it's kind of, well, it's been described as just like any kind of workplace drama, but on it. So like a hospital drama, but this one's about the White House. So and as you say, it ran for 7 seasons, and it starts halfway through during the second year of his presidency. So it kind of goes from that point right to the end of a 2-term presidency. Yeah.
Okay, and it was hugely popular in its time, and I think that's kind of still stands. I think the majority of people have probably still heard of it, and even during its day, it won like a whole host of awards for addressing all kinds of topics and like superb acting. And I think one of the key reasons I think it probably got a lot of respect from critics and from actual politicians is that it was fairly realistic in its portrayal of politics, but also the personal issues, because obviously politics is done by people, and therefore is totally involved with kind of personal issues which go on behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things wherein it does force you to kind of, like you say, personalise politicians and realise that decisions are not not just kind of tick box things or based purely on statistics or whatever, but there's a lot of personal investment in those decisions. And the West Wing is a very certainly if you're coming at it from a kind of a democratic as opposed to Republican kind of, because it's democratic presidency, it's a very optimistic view of politics in terms of people are going out for their genuine personal beliefs. It's not a pursuit of power or a pursuit of like money. It's a pursuit of like genuine belief that this is the best thing for the country. It's very optimistic in that kind of sense. It's interesting when it sits alongside something like House of Cards, wherein I've only seen a bit of House of Cards, but it's because that's also a democratic kind of protagonist, but coming at it from completely the other. Have you seen any of House of Cards?
No.
Okay, so that's just a lot more like jaded, a lot more cynical. So you can see the same event happening in both almost, but for very different kind of intentions, very different reasons. In House of Cards, it's all about kind of backstabbing and pursuit of power and stuff like this. But there's just a very kind of positive spin on politics, which you see, and so it kind of makes you hope that politicians, even if they're making decisions you disagree with, are at least thinking about it in ways like they are in the West Wing. So
I think it must be really hard actually to make a program which is inherently about politics and politicians without making political statements directly. Because obviously you're making a drama about the leadership of the country, which is a hugely contested topic. Even, if you think about the US, like the different sides there are and the different parties and kind of the huge amounts of rivalry there are there. And I think it received a fair amount of flack for being quite left-wing and kind of its ideology.
Yeah. I think, so I was just looking at something they were saying about that, and the writers talking about how it was quite intentional that they had to give them like strong political beliefs, because that's where the passion in the characters comes from. That's where the drama comes from.
Yeah, of course.
So it was necessary to assign them political ideologies, and I assume that actually links in with the ideologies of some of the writers, at least. But actually, and so the people you're rooting for largely are these Democrats. But it's interesting because there are some very strong and reasonable Republicans in there as well. It's not a kind of whitewashing and a binary job of kind of good and evil type thing. Obviously, because these guys are the protagonists, you're usually led to want them to win, but it doesn't mean that the Republicans are always shown to be kind of actively evil. But I think it did receive some kind of some response in that way, because of its kind of idealism and its kind of portrayal that, like I was talking about, like optimistic politicians, as though, and almost you could leave it thinking, actually, the left wing guys are the guys who care about the country and are the guys who genuinely wants change, but actually they couldn't do that about a Republican administration because it wouldn't be nearly as honest and genuine and stuff. So it's quite so it did receive that, but I think it's fair enough that it had to choose a political aspect.
Yeah, I mean the characters would be so one-dimensional without, the whole reason someone would get into politics and be in the White House is because they have really strong political beliefs. So to create characters without that would be totally useless.
Yeah, and you couldn't make it kind of neutral kind of thing, because that's not how these kind of things work, particularly because they chose to look within a White House. They weren't, maybe if they were looking at like Congress or something like this, wherein you had you were following two different sets of characters, then maybe that could have been a different way of doing it. But no, so it's politics, and then was kind of quite influential in weird, and it has this way. It's almost like The Thick of It has done, where it's kind of accidentally predicted things that were gonna happen. The weirdest of which is So in the final season, as I say, it was kind of coming towards the end of Bartlett, who's the original guy, his presidency, and so bringing in a new administration. And so they go through the whole primary process as we're going through at the moment. There's
which as we should remember, is actually in the real world just kind of the same thing was happening, because 2006 is when Obama came in.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. So 2006, that's season 7, and this character Matt Santos was introduced in season 6 in 2005. And he's the guy who eventually comes up and wins the nomination. Sorry to ruin it for anyone. And he was actually based on Obama when Obama was just kind of a senator or whatever he was. And he just,
so they modelled the character on the guy who actually went on to win the presidency.
Yeah, but at the time at which they wrote it, Obama was just kind of a very kind of oratorically gifted congressman kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so they thought, okay, and also obviously Matt Santos is a Latino candidate, as well as a very good orator and a Democrat as well. So then and actually the guy he was against is very similar to John McCain in a lot of ways.
Yeah. John
McCain was more right wing, but there's this kind of weird thing of that happens in 2006, and then 2008, 2 years later, you've got a very similar race in a lot of ways. And one of the things I wonder whether Obama's kind of how administrations ever suffered from was this kind of this idealism of the West Wing, and people thinking, he can do what they did.
Yeah.
But, in reality, obviously you can write a show to say whatever you want, but it's not really how these things always work out.
Absolutely. Do you think that the popularity of West Wing has actually helped to educate people? Do you feel particularly knowledgeable about the American democratic system because of this show?
Well, I feel like I do. But then I'm not sure how much of that I've actually backed up with other research. So actually, I might just be very knowledgeable about the West Wing and then assuming it's very accurate.
Yeah.
It might just not be. I think it is. I've heard it's got a lot of kind of respect in that way.
If the show itself is at least as we imagine fairly representative of what the democratic process is, and maybe what actually the day-to-day lives of White House staff, senior staff, is. When you watch the show, where does that come across? I mean, where does the majority of the show actually take place?
So the majority of the show is in the White House, in the West Wing of the White House, which is where kind of the senior staff.
Yeah, I could have guessed that.
Yeah. And that's partly, but then it does look at the personal lives of the individual characters. It's an ensemble cast, but you get to find out about their working relationship. But then it's kind of pushed that their personal lives, they don't really have much space for it because they are working, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 hours a day. So it makes sense that a lot of the action is happening at their workplace because that, they don't have much life outside of it. But, it does go into relationships and outsider life, and you get a sense of what their outside life is and what it might have been beforehand. They all talk about how much, they've all taken massive pay cuts to be there.
Yeah.
Coming from, top law firms or whatever it is. And so you get a sense of that. But because so much of their life is occupied by being at work, because it's just stupidly long days. But it does also look at kind of the president's family and that personal life and how it impacts on that in a lot of ways.
Because I think that's something that's probably underestimated, is that the commitment that it takes to take on these roles, but also if say a member of your family becomes president of the United States, suddenly that's probably what your entire family is going to be doing for the next at least 4 years. It's not really an individual role. And I might even say that to a greater extent than the Prime Minister of the UK, because being the First Lady and the amount of security that's involved, it must be incredibly restrictive on your life, actually.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. Again, I don't know actually how realistic it is, but it feels realistic.
Yeah,
As he goes into office, or in his second year,
yeah,
his youngest daughter is just going off to college, and she's coming to study in Washington at Georgetown. But
yeah,
you see this quite a lot in the first few seasons of her struggling with this, of having the security personnel around her, and
yeah.
wanting to be a regular person, but how that interacts and things like that. So it is really interesting, and the difficulties that causes with them adjusting to it, and also then when it comes to running for a second time, it turns out he's got quite a severe. He's got MS, and his wife, who's a medical doctor, is like, they had previously had an agreement that he wouldn't run for a second term because of this.
Yeah, yeah.
So that kind of conflict, those kind of things, which, yeah, it feels very real. You can imagine those kind of debates. And again, when it comes to Matt Santos's presidency, you see that all the way from beginning, him deciding whether to run or not.
Yeah.
And the realization that suddenly you've got to live in a fortressed house, you've got to have security guards guarding your entire street, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Your kid can't just go to a normal school, because as soon as they go, it isn't a normal school anymore. You've got so it feels like it's got you do get quite an insight into what that would mean.
Yeah.
But you never know. You never know how realistic that actually is, kind of thing.
No, of course, unless you actually experience it.
Yeah, which
is something we all get round to doing at one point in time.
Yeah, it's just when I can be bothered, really.
Yeah, exactly. So when I looked it up, I was surprised that there wasn't actually that many actors and actresses involved in it that I recognised. Do you think that that was done on purpose, or do you think it's just a symptom of the fact that the show's a little bit older now, or was The West Wing the peak of a lot of these people's careers?
Well, obviously Martin Sheen has had a big film background, and he plays the president, and he was in things like Apocalypse Now and things like this.
Yeah. I'd like to mention as well that the only place I recognised him from, and this might show me up in some kind of lack of pop culture knowledge, but when I saw a picture of him, I instantly recognised him as Uncle Ben from The Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Who gets spoiler alert, Uncle Ben in Spider-Man gets shot at the beginning of pretty much every time they because they like to cover the origin story again and again and again with every iteration.
He's dead. He's dead. Yeah, he's dead again.
Again. But that's the one place that I reckon really kind of, that's where he jumped out. I was like, wow, it's Uncle Ben. He's back.
I mean, he is a big kind of, he's had a big career. And Rob Lowe as well, when he came in, he was kind of brought in as the star when it first started. And then it became more of an ensemble piece. And I think it's a bit of a kind of, like I say, these guys, when they were cast, was however long ago, and we were both quite young at that point, so we might not know because of that. But also, I think now TV generally has a lot bigger recognition, so you can get big names doing TV dramas like this.
Absolutely.
So these guys were kind of big on TV. From what I understand, these guys were big on American TV kind of thing, and similar dramas, whatever. But weren't. It wasn't like they were going to get the big film stars like they can do today, because of the impact and the critical respectability of TV now is massive, or TV or Netflix kind of things.
I think now there's more and more crossover between films, what you'd call film stars, and TV stars, just because TV series I'm saying but realistically they have reached the kind of stage where they're as popular and as well respected and as in demand, as in, that people really get addicted to the series, and they fall in love with the idea of the characters, and if anything, people push more for kind of additional seasons and episodes of popular series than they do of, say, sequels of movies.
Yeah, and I think it's the advent of and the investment in things like Netflix and on-demand services, and I say, that coming from DVD box sets and things, but has all picked up on that. But The West Wing is a big. I've just looked at it. Was they had a budget of $2.7 million per episode. Like, it was a big, and their sets were kind of massive. And you look at it as a show, and because that was actually, I was looking up, and I think it was kind of equivalent to or more than kind of Game of Thrones first season.
Yeah.
And you look at Game of Thrones, you're like, okay, that's where the budget's spent.
Yeah.
Massive, whatever. But it's really, with The West Wing, the budget is spent in detail and in making it feel real, and big indoor sets, and it feels very much like you're in the West Wing and the White House and stuff. So it had big budget behind it, but like I said, I just don't think TV at that point, and I might be wrong, but I don't think it had the kind of star draws as TV does now, because, like you say, like, the ability to invest in characters over a series, I think if you really get invested in TV dramas, sometimes you can then go and watch a film and be like, what, that was only an hour and a half, I want so much more of this. So that has shifted more, and around the time of The West Wing, I know there was kind of The Sopranos was pretty contemporary, and those two shows really led into the new kind of The Wire and things like that, and The Wire kicks into
like the new kind of like mega series trend which we have at the moment.
So the actors thing, and I think so some of them will be more well known to maybe a generation prior to us, or maybe just American viewers than they are to us. But for me, certainly, because I've seen it so much, they're always associated with those characters.
Do you think it still holds a lot of relevance now? Do you think it, for someone who's never seen the show, do you think it'd still be as powerful watching it now? Would you recommend it?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's really interesting. A lot of it, obviously, like in terms of the process of how democracy works, that's going to be, relatively similar to as it is now. A lot of the topics that are being discussed are very similar, and it's also quite. It can be quite prophetic at times. Like, there's a time in the first season, so that's obviously in '99, where he says, like, the 20s and 30s were about big government or something like this. The 50s and 60s were about the civil rights movement. The next 2 decades for us are going to be about internet security and privacy.
Yeah, and look how relevant that is.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're kind of looking at that, and they're using, on the show, they're using these massive kind of desktops that, running Windows 98 or whatever, but he's still, like, they could spot that ahead and things like that.
And that's in, we don't want to get too political, but the recent news is there's been a really big kind of news event where, again, in online and internet security has come out in a really big way, and obviously it has done before with a lot of political figures taking different sides, and I think there's a lot of fear mongering about the idea of kind of cyber terrorism or other forms of a danger which people aren't potentially aware of and familiar with and don't know how to feel about. So it's interesting that the writers or the producers, even such an early stage, were able to see kind of like viruses and things have been around since the beginning of the idea of computers and interlinked computers, but they were able to see the scale of kind of the problem that could become once they become so ingrained in our infrastructure and kind of lives.
And what privacy means in this context.
Of course.
And I think particularly in a kind of American context where they've got things like the Bill of Rights, and they've got these quite enshrined kind of doctrines almost. What does that mean in the modern age? And they're tackling those kind of issues, and which remain relevant. Then it's really interesting. There's a really defined shift in the show after 9/11.
Okay. Oh, of course.
They actually wrote two special shows. One special show, particularly dealing with kind of not directly, because obviously it's in an alternative timeline, but dealing with the issues that come from Islamic terrorism, and about and it was written very quickly, filmed on a low budget, but it's very powerful. Yeah. And then you can spot the show shifting towards dealing more with global terrorism, things like that. So it does obviously, certain elements of it are going to be different now to how they were when it's filmed, but certainly the processes and the ideas behind it of what are politicians thinking when they're justifying these things, what is the process behind the scenes, a lot of that's going to be, I suspect, very similar now. It's got a lot of relevance. I think it's dated really well, actually.
All right,
I'd say.
Great.
Yeah.
So we're getting towards the end of the show, and I'm actually going to try out a new feature, which you have not been informed of yet. But it's more of a challenge to you, actually. It's not too hard, so I won't get too worried.
Okay.
And I think it'll actually help end the show on a kind of a higher note than potentially what we've been discussing recently. So, are you aware of the website Reddit, Rob?
Yes, I am.
Right. So for people who are listening, Reddit is just a very, very big online forum, and within that there are sub-forums, and people can make their own forums for whatever topic they desire. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the forum, the sub-forum for West Wing.
Okay.
All right. So here I am now on r/the West Wing, which actually seems pretty popular still, despite the fact that like we were saying, the show's fairly old. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sort the posts by popularity, and I'm going to look for the highest all-time post in the subreddit. And your job is to tell me probably what you think that post is going to be like.
Right.
What do you think it's about?
Well, when you say most popular, is that kind of is that on most comments, or is that most approved of kind of thing? How does it work in that way?
It's the most approved of. It's got like the most votes upwards.
That's really difficult, because there are going to be things like West Wing views on gun crime or something like this, which I imagine are going to get a lot of traction.
I'll give you a hint. This post was only submitted 3 months ago.
3 months ago. Right, what month are we in now? April, May. I honestly...
I'm going to give you another clue. It's about one of the actors.
Okay, is it about Martin Sheen talking about Barack Obama?
No, it's not. Do you want another guess before I tell you?
Yeah, I do. Is it about Toby... Oh, no, sorry. Richard Schiff talking about why he left the show?
No, it's about one of the actors who died 10 years ago.
Oh, sorry, John Spencer.
Yeah, it is. It's a memorial post for John Spencer, who apparently 3 months ago this year died 10 days ago. Was he a key character?
Yeah, he was. He was the president's best friend and chief of staff, and he died actually while they were filming the final season.
Do you mean like during like literally during filming?
I mean, I don't think he fell down on set.
Oh, right, okay.
but yeah, I think while they were in the process of filming his... I think it was while they were filming, or possibly while it was on air. But certainly, yeah, and during one of the episodes, the Martin Sheen, who plays President, before the episode comes on and says, this is in memory of blah, blah. We've lost a good friend. But yeah, no, so that makes sense, 2006, yeah. I love how you said it would end on a light note. And actually, you're just talking about an actor's death. So, good work there, Sam.
Yeah, but I know. Well, it's uncontrollable. I'm spinning the dice.
Yeah.
The third most popular post is actually that quote that you talked about it's not just about abortion, it's about the next 20 years, it's the 20s and the 30s with the role of government, etc., and it is raising the issue of privacy.
Yeah.
And also the fourth most popular one is a post someone trying to imagine what Josh Lindman, who must be a character, would say about the refugee crisis. So even among kind of the community which is left over in the wake of the show, it's clear that people are kind of imagining it in the context of real world events even today.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised by that. And that's why I was wondering about kind of something like gun crime. I think it'd be really, I wonder if it'd be really kind of quite, or this migration thing, because I think people will be inclined to they want their characters to agree with themselves. So they probably just type out their own views and be like, Josh would say this. So that's why I was a bit skeptical whether it would be kind of the most favourable, because I feel like it would be quite contentious.
Yeah, well, it's actually quite a contentious topic. I mean, as a political show, so quite a difficult one to guess, I think.
But yeah, honouring someone who's died is generally a popular thing.
Yeah,
so
good point.
Should have guessed it.
All right, so we're going to wrap it up there. I'm going to say thanks very much to Rob for coming on and talking about The West Wing.
Well, thanks.
I found it really interesting, actually. No, you're very welcome. I might check it out now that we've got stuck in. Thanks to everyone who's listened. For hanging on in there throughout this marathon. But we'll draw it to a close now, and I hope you join us again. Thanks a lot, Rob.
Bye.
Thanks to Rob for another really interesting episode of Sam Gets Schooled. If you're interested in other episodes, this is episode 7 of 10, then you can find the links for those below. If you think this podcast stuff looks easy, I invite you to come on and try it out with me. You can email me directly at samgetsschooled@outlook.com. Thanks very much for listening, and bye-bye.